about why most relationships fail, period. Why most couples eventually break up. Why? Because of communication, bad communication. Usually fighting, arguing, disagreeing over what? Over petty things, over foolish things, over things that have built up over years, that have never truly been resolved, discussed, put closure on, negotiated, compromised, etc. Just swept under the rug. Resentments build up. People are in their own heads thinking that maybe it'll change some century, maybe it'll get better some decade, rather than actually addressing the problems that are going on. Okay, people are afraid that if we address the problems, if I actually get in his or her face and talk about what's really bothering me, that they're going to go away. And then that's going to jump in all my abandonment fears and issues, and I don't want to be alone, and I'm going to die old and alone someday in a small room with tubes, feeding tubes and things. Look, you're wasting your time. If there's a relationship that has a chance to survive, you're wasting your time having your head in the sand and ignoring the issue and ignoring the communication. You need to communicate. When things go awry, you need to address them at the time. Okay, now at the time, if everything is too charged, then you disengage to another time when everything is calm, but you have to have the conversation. You have to have the discussion about needs not being met, about someone being sarcastic and ridiculing and shaming and making you feel guilty and bad. If there's a toxic, hostile environment, if there's unpleasantness, if there's an undercurrent of passive aggressiveness, whatever it might be, if you ignore it, if you sweep it under the rug, your resentments will build. Your unhappiness will build. Their resentments, their unhappiness will build. Sooner or later, you're going to split up. Okay? So if there's something you like about the person and love about the person and you really want to stay together, then, when things aren't feeling right, talk about it. And talking about it doesn't mean that you interrupt. It doesn't mean that that you insist that you're right and they're wrong. It means trying to see the other person's point of view. It means trying to get everybody's needs met in a fair way. It's called compromise, negotiating, right? This is what all relationships require. Greater sensitivity, greater compassion for each other, greater consideration for each other. You guys got to sit down and talk about this. Date nights may reinvigorate a relationship, but the most important thing in reinvigorating a relationship and repairing a relationship is talking to each other. Actually talking about feelings, talking about how each other makes each other feel, talking about behaviors. And each of you needs to not be defensive about it. You need to listen. You need to hear. You need to not get defensive. You need to actually look at yourself and ask yourself, am I doing that? Is he or she just, oversensitive and making this up and trying to gaslight me or this or that? Or is it really happening? Could I really be doing this? If you are really doing this, then you got to face up to it. You got to own it, and you got to stop doing it. If there's something you're doing that's pushing the other person away and you don't want to push the other person away, then hello, pay attention, figure it out, and change your behavior. Right? Be better. Be more loving, be more forgiving, be more accepting, be less judgmental, be more generous. Give the other person the benefit of the doubt rather than assuming the worst. Right? Don't take everything so personally, but you've got to communicate. You've got to work through the mixed feelings, the ambivalent feelings that may come up, because if you don't, sooner or later, you're either going to realize that you're in a crappy relationship for 30 years, and you've wasted a ton of time, or you're just going to break up at some point and start over again, and maybe that'll work and maybe it won't, right? But the point is, why be miserable? Why be unhappy? Why be with somebody who it could be good if you would just talk to each other, and be honest and be compassionate while you're being honest? You have a chance to repair the relationship. You have a chance to have a sustainable relationship that could go on for years in a really good, positive, nurturing way. Okay, but it's all about empathy. It's all about rising above the battlefield. It's all about, being loving, accepting, and forgiving as much as possible. Getting rid of passive aggressive behavior. Getting rid of, guilting and shaming behavior. Right? Try to see everything from the other person's point of view. Try to think about what's in it. How can I help them rather than what's in it for me? Okay? Most relationships fail because people don't talk to each other. The resentments build up, and eventually everybody goes away. And it doesn't have to be that way. All right, that's it for today. Remember my motto: if you're not confused, you're just not thinking clearly. All right, take care. Peace be with you. See you next time.